This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment podcast, brought to you by Hoxo Media. And I've got to contain the inner squeal today, because I have been waiting to invite this lady on my podcast, I think for about a year actually. And we are connected through the most incredible lady, Amelia Swardell, who created the Women Unleashed group in 2020 at the start of COVID. And we've always stayed in touch. We've supported each other. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Belinda Agnew. Welcome to you today, all the way from Australia. How are you, Belinda?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be on this podcast. It's literally been a year, guys. I cannot believe. 1 year to get on this podcast.
It is, and it's because, and we are going to come on to that, because you were about to launch a new service, and we wanted to make sure that was all your ducks were in a row before you came on. So
yes.
Talk about that today. So for those who believe people are not following you, because they should be, you're absolutely all over social media. We'll make sure everything's shown on all the channels so they can follow you on Instagram as well as LinkedIn. Tell us who you are and what your businesses are.
Yeah, so I guess long story short is I am obsessed with brand and I am obsessed with scaling talent. So they're the two things I'm really good at and I love it. So Foccus Group is a recruitment agency where we scale tech talent in software, AI, technology companies. And then the second thing I'm involved in is Enamus, which is a digital agency scaling tech companies as well. But yeah, brand and talent is my forte.
Absolutely. Brilliantly put, and I couldn't have put it any better. So there you go. That's why I invited you. And you're also a brand ambassador for Women in Technology, which I think is...
I am, yes. I'm the brand ambassador in Australia for Women in Tech, correct. So I'm also involved in a few startups as well. So to Fintech companies, Proptech, Any Auctions, which is a Proptech company, which is essentially like an app where you can buy a property on your mobile phone anywhere in the world, which is crazy. And then BizPay, which is like a fintech company where it's an afterpay for any business services. So if you're a recruitment agency and you charge, let's say, $60,000 for a full fee, your client is allowed to pay that in full, but you as a recruiter get paid within 24 hours. So it's really amazing. Yeah, and it's like a 1.5 interest on top, so you can either take that or the client, whichever. But yeah, that's really cool. And I'm also involved in a company called Floofers, which is another startup company we're about to launch in November. So it's an Airbnb for pets. So if you have a fur baby and you need to take them for walks and things like that, we connect pet sitters and companion lovers to pets to be able to do that for you. So that's exciting.
Okay, because all my dog friends and cat friends, owning friends, I should say, will just
yeah, it's crazy. So we're about to launch in November in Australia first, and then we're going to UK and then Europe, UK and America.
Wow, yeah. That sounds absolutely...
It's exciting.
It is. So you are an investor as well. I mean, that's why I invited you on today, because you are just so inspiring and you're just one of the nicest people. And I love following everything that you share, because you are the meme queen. There's no question. And you're very real, you are very real in what you share. You're happy to share a picture of what you're eating out in a restaurant. You've been to the gym, if you're having a crap day, but you're also sharing really incredible talent about digital brands. And, you've also failed to mention that you're also a fellow podcast host. Startup for Unicorns.
I am.
Very cool.
Yeah, Startup for Unicorns. Yeah. I think we got second in Australia. I wish it was in the world, but it was in Australia. It was right up there with Gary V, which is oh my God.
Gary V.
I know Gary V and Tim Ferriss. When I've seen that, I think it was because of the two girls that I had on my podcast, Beck and Bridge. Yeah. Bianca and Bridget, sorry. Who said Beck and Bridge? But yeah, they were amazing. And my podcast just shot right up there on second. I was like, oh, this is great.
So anyone that hasn't subscribed, I listen to everything on I'm a Spotify girl. And that particular episode, so they're the creators of Booby Tape, aren't they?
Yes.
And regardless of where you're listening to this in the world, regardless of what sex or gender you are, it's a brilliant episode, because their chemistry, we were talking about this offline before, weren't we? Their chemistry is just unbelievable. It's so, you're magnetized towards them. And I know the episode just thinking because their story is so compelling, isn't it?
I know, they have such an amazing, and they're just really nice girls. They really want to help other people, especially women in business. Yeah. reach their full potential. So they're just, yeah, they're amazing, those two, for sure.
And it's a brilliant podcast, and obviously the whole notion of it is it's all about companies that have started up, and that's, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on today, because, you know, the sort of the combination of your portfolio of business interests are allowing you to get this objective point of view of what it takes to create a strong brand. So I guess let's start with that, really. What would you say?
Yes.
You know, if you think about our audience, because obviously our audience is predominantly recruitment leaders, it's recruitment. It might be solopreneurs, it might just, you know, people like myself with smaller businesses, it might be those who've got massive big global firms. So we talk about brand all the time now. To you, what does that actually
How weird.
What we're talking about?
But how weird, first of all, the fact that recruiters talk about brand now in 2020, like we would never have these conversations in recruitment world like 2 years ago. Like, it's crazy how we sit and actually talk about doing videos on LinkedIn and doing all these crazy pieces of content. It's actually quite funny. So recruitment, brand within recruitment, as you would know, you're a queen at this. You post a bunch of content, you're super consistent with what you push out on LinkedIn and online. I think it's like you're connecting people to people, so they want to know who's behind the brand, who's behind the screen. And I think the more you put yourself out there, I guess the more you can connect candidates and companies to you, because in the end, people are actually buying you, not your company. So I think it's really important to create a brand, not just within the company, but also around yourself. Amelia is great at this. She owns Clout, which is a personal brand agency. She's a big advocate for that, right? It's like pushing yourself out there personally, not just as a company, because it's just as important, because we're selling people. So we should be also selling ourselves online. I think it's really important to do that. And I think a lot of recruiters, I get so many messages from recruitment consultants and agencies. I don't understand, like, how did you start? Like, what platforms do you use? What videographer do you use? What apps do you use to edit this? And I was like, I don't do this on my own. Like, I have a full-blown team doing this stuff. Like, we have a content calendar on Trello. If you look at my Trello, there's stuff everywhere. Like, you would never think this takes time and a lot of effort behind the scenes. So it's not just me going on Canva and creating this, you know, weird content and then posting it out. This is all a lot of time and thought, you know, into this. So I think you just need to figure out why you want to create a brand, and I guess B, what you want to be known for. I think you can't just post to post. You need to post to be aligned to the message that you're trying to push out. So if it's recruitment, stick to recruitment. If it's you know, hairdressing, stick to that. If it's makeup, stick to that. Whatever it is that you're trying to push out. But yeah, brand is huge.
And one of the things that I think really resonates with yours is the word authenticity. And of course, that means you're just being you, you're just being true. You can't become authentic. You already are. If you're being true
That
to
is true.
There's a disconnect very often, because of course in recruitment we are, yes, it's people to people, it's human to human, but actually we are creating a service and providing a service as well. And I think it's, you know, maybe don't overcomplicate things, but where recruitment leaders are thinking, well, you know, we have got a company brand, but equally we're employing however many recruiters, they've each got their own personal brands. How do they all marry up?
Yeah, I mean, like with the whole I guess personal brand per se, with like business and personal, I think they're both very different. And I think with authenticity, I don't like to use that too much, because I feel like so many people are like authentic, be organic, be this. And like you said, you know, you can't make that up. Like, you can't just say I'm authentic. Like, if you say that you're authentic, you're not really, because you're just saying it to like show up, right? So I think it's like, you know, when you're hiring a candidate, for me, it's always attitude over skills. Like, I can't make somebody's attitude up. I can't create their character to be that certain candidate, right? So I think I would play it like that. Like, my character makes my brand, my character creates my content. And I think if you're not good at showing up in video, then do something else. Like Gary Vee says, create content in other ways. Like, you could do copy, you could do audio, you could do other things. So you don't necessarily need to show up in a video. You could do a podcast like you're doing. So there's so many ways that you could create content, but people just think it's creating video and showing up in video. No, you can create value in so many other ways and so many other forms. I think the difference between a personal brand and a company brand is really interesting. To me now, like if you were to ask me a year ago, I would say a business brand and a business brand and a personal brand are completely different. But now I'm like, they are not. They are completely the same in so many ways. And the reason why, especially in recruitment, I'm not saying all companies, like products, maybe not, but in services, they are, because you're selling yourself and you need to be able to be the forefront of your recruitment agency, which is essentially you know. So I think they play a big part with each other.
But that's
what I'm trying to say.
Recruitment leaders listening to this, who you're thinking, well, we are maybe there is some productization, because plenty of companies are doing that now, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But actually hiring people into your values and hiring people who share those values is absolutely critical now, and has never been more so. And I pick up on your point, attitude over experience every single time, because that way you are absolutely guaranteed to ensure that those individuals who are creating their content are doing so with a genuine link to what your actual company stands for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of, you've interviewed some incredible people for your startups and unicorns, and of course you're investing in businesses all the time. What lessons have you learned, and what would you say is best practice when it comes to, what those businesses have done to make sure their brands stand out and become market leaders?
This is really a good question. I don't think I've been asked this question before. I would say, I don't want to say this to be generic, because most people do say this, but I think people misinterpret brand to be a piece of content or a PR stunt or a PR campaign or, an article or something, right? That's what they consider being a brand. But I think a brand is about the people. Like it really comes down to the people, the talent you've got in the business, and I guess the people that are driving that particular brand. Because if I was to drive your recruitment agency, it would be a completely different look and feel of the brand itself, just by having me leading it without even posting anything, and vice versa if you were doing that with us, right? Yeah. It really comes down to the people, the core values, I guess the milestones you have in play to create that brand. But I think the core values when becoming, or I guess creating a brand, is most people don't think about it, but a brand has their own identity and it has its own personality. So you need to ask the questions to, what is Foccus Group, or what is this agency, or what do we stand for? Yes, we may stand for like 4 different pillars, but like, what's the type of voice that your recruitment agency as a brand would have? Yeah. If I was to talk to your agency and ask these questions, what would they reply in? Versus not just you as an individual, but the brand itself. So a brand has its own identity, and that's the thing where people get mixed up as well. They obviously post and create things based on what they like as an individual, but they don't get that that's most likely not going to work, and the market is not going to react as well, as good as as the brand. Sorry, they're not going to react as well when you're posting out the brand from your business versus your personal, if that makes any sense. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is the company has its own brand identity as well, not just as an individual.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think, what you've just said there is right. I think people think, oh, I'll just post a few memes and, we'll just put, share, I don't know, Stephen Bartlett or Gary V's podcast. That, that's the thing. One entity, whereas a brand is a living, breathing thing, isn't it? It's an actual being in its own right.
Yeah, it's its own personality. And this is what people don't understand. And I didn't get it, to be honest, for years. And I was always like, to my creative director and the person that was creating my stuff, I was like, but I don't like that color. That color sucks. Like, I want this color. I want this look. I want this feel. And they're like, the brand isn't you though. It's a different entity. You work for the brand. The brand is a person. I'm like, all right, I get it.
is, and it changes and it adapts, and I think it's about being nimble with it. I think that's a really interesting concept, and sort of reframing how people see brand will maybe just make them be a bit
correct.
Be a bit more brazen, be a bit more, you're right, a lot of people don't want to sit there, and you do watch these videos and you think they're just doing that because they think that's what they need to do, and there's no substance to it, there's no style to it. But actually, maybe you're better off sharing, maybe your theme could be, walks on the beach, or, a foodie thing, whatever it might be, because actually that's what people will come to you for, because they know that that's what you're passionate about and that's what you stand for.
Oh, 100%. I think it comes down to core values and stuff like that as well. But you're absolutely right. And look, going back to what I was saying as well, is try a bunch of stuff and figure out what works for you. And every brand that we, I guess, scale, we always do it with brand awareness first. And the difference between paid marketing and brand awareness is you're paying for a certain demographic to target, whereas brand awareness is all organic. So you're allowing a marketplace to come to you organically versus actually paying for it. So I think that would be the difference, is just try a bunch of stuff, build brand awareness organically first, and that way the market will tell you if it's good or not. And then whatever's good, pay for that demographic and then push it out and scale it. So I think, there's a difference between the two as well, of paid and brand.
Great advice there. I bet everyone's jotting that bit down. Now, we've already mentioned that you're an investor, and obviously you're an ambassador for Women in Technology, which is incredible. And one of the greatest things to have come out of the last 18 months of the pandemic is the amount of startup recruitment businesses that there are, whatever that scalability. So what would your advice be to people that are starting out themselves, which, was you all those years ago? What would you say are the key things that will make you successful in whatever your growth plans are?
Oh my God, there's so many things. And I think you could say a ton of stuff too, right? But I mean, for me, from experience, brand, number one, for sure. And what I mean by that is putting yourself out there online and actually creating a name for yourself in the marketplace, because that will forever stick and that will forever stay. Whereas if I didn't create that and I was hustling behind the scenes, the way I see it is, if you didn't take a picture, you were never there. Or if you didn't do a video, it never happened, right? So that's the way I see a brand, is if I didn't take a picture, or if I didn't do a video, or if I didn't talk about it online, it never really happened. So that's why they call it PR for a reason. But I would definitely say, build a brand in the cheapest way possible, even just like showing up on a phone. You're building a brand, you're building awareness, you're building a personal brand. Number two would be never be afraid to ask, because if you don't ask, you're never going to know what the actual answer is. Again, that's really generic, but you'd be surprised. There's so many people that don't even bloody ask the question. It's like, what are you trying to ask me? Stop beating around the bush. Just tell me what you want. Just be very blunt and straightforward with what you're asking. And then thirdly, which is one that I've recently found out, is, I don't know if you could do this in a recruitment agency, but if you could try corporatize. And what I mean by that is build a mini board, or build like mentors around you. Surround yourself with the right people that don't have the talents that you don't have. So for an example, I'm great at BD and growth. Marketing is actually my second or third, but my first, I guess, skill set is growth. I'm very good at growing and scaling and bringing in business quite quickly, and building strategic partnerships and corporate partnerships. Whereas I'm shit at operations. Like, I'm really bad at it. I'm so bad at operations, really bad at finances, have no clue when it comes to that. So I would surround myself with mentors, or I would get board members involved in the company to assist me in those sectors. So I guess that would be my third advice for sure.
I would say that last point would have probably been my first point, that don't be afraid. why they're hiring. Or you don't even need to, you know, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, but I can't afford that, get yourself a great accountant, get yourself a great lawyer, get yourself a great agency. You know, these are the people that are specializing in those areas, if they're your development areas, as I like to call them. Basically, I'm shit at all those things too, because I'm a sales girl. That's what I say. I'm a sales girl. We shouldn't be good at operations, and we shouldn't be good, although I'm very good at producing invoices, but it doesn't. I think you know, what you said there is get yourself into your natural flow, and you will fly. But if you're doing things that are anchoring you, that, I mean, there are some parts of running a business, regardless of the scale, that you have to do, of course, legally and from a compliance point of view. But if you can either recruit people or, like you say, delegate those things out, you can just release yourself and release your wings. So I think that's really, really valuable advice.
I actually would add to that really quick, because this is really important. I would say this is my first, cut out the noise. And what I mean by that is just focus on what you want your outcome to be, and just narrow in on what you're actually doing, and just drive the hell out of it, because there's going to be so much noise around you, from family, from mentors, from investors, from, you know, clients, from candidates, you know, saying things that may stuff up your direction. So I would say cut that out completely and just follow your gut and just keep going no matter what, because some of those things around you can completely just, you know, stuff up your whole focus. So yeah, cut out the noise would be number one.
Cutting out the noise can include, I'll add to that list, the naysayers, the people that aren't happy that you're doing what they're doing because they haven't got the guts to do it. So I think cutting the noise is possibly the name of this podcast, which is a very nice way to finish, because I think you're absolutely right. And I think there's so many things to distract us, especially if you live on LinkedIn or you're on Instagram and you're following amazing, inspiring people thinking, oh, I need to do that. And you can just then become this busy fool. You're absolutely right what Belinda's saying there, and there's no pun intended on the focus element, obviously, although there is. Presumably that's why your business is called Focus. Absolutely in the zone. I think it's brilliant advice. I really do.
Yeah. It's true, especially now, you know, there's lots going on in the world. I think you just need to narrow down and just stay focused to what you're trying to do.
You do indeed. Well, from the other side of the globe, quite literally, and as we record this in September 2021, I know things haven't been great over in Australia in terms of lockdowns and stuff. So I hope by the time we share this, there's a little bit more freedom and liberty, and that your vaccine rollout is more successful. How's things been?
I mean, it's pretty intense, to say the least. It is really crazy. A lot of people are going pretty crazy here. You know, mental health is a big thing that I'm starting to think about more. What I mean by that is I'm actually reaching out to loved ones more than I would usually. So I tend to like to multitask a lot. So what I do is I make calls in between and just call people and just ask them if they're okay. But yeah, it's really crazy times. Like, it really is. It truly is weird times. Like, the air's weird, everything's weird, people are weird. There's a huge divide in the culture. There's a huge shift with people. You know, it's really different. It's weird times. Like, we'll look back at this and be like, what? We actually lived this COVID life.
But you
I don't know what advice.
It won't be forever, you know that.
I know, we will. Yeah, we will. Look, I don't really before. I would say, you know, this lockdown, I was like, oh, like, whatever, it's a lockdown, get over it. You know, just put your head down, start working, keep doing, focus on you, focus on your health, focus on this, focus on that. But I think this lockdown really hit me hard. I was like, holy crap. Like, we're about to go into like a 7th lockdown, I think it was, or 10th lockdown. I don't even know how many lockdowns we have, but yeah, like, can you imagine like having curfews? I don't want to talk too much into it, but we've got curfews. We can't leave the house at 9 p.m. We have to wear masks outside. You know, kids weren't even allowed to go to playgrounds. Not that I'm a mum, but, you know, like, come on, you know, it was just terrible times. But I think you just need it gives you a lot of perspective to life. And it really allows you to be grateful for the things that we weren't grateful for before, you know, pre-COVID. Like, now I'm so grateful for the, I guess, ability and the flexibility I have around my work, which is what we we're talking about before. I can just work on a laptop. I can sit at a beach and sit on my phone and do my work. I can freely do whatever I want as long as I've got Wi-Fi. So
yeah.
Whereas a lot of these other people, they're stuck to their desk 9 to 5 and they're losing their jobs because they're not vaxxed, or if they don't get vaxxed, they lose their job. So I'm very, very grateful and blessed for that as well. So I guess you just got to be grateful in these times, right? For the things that you had before.
It's a very nice way to look at it, because I think gratitude generally is a very underrated sort of thing to feel. And I think that with perspective, and obviously we're on the other side of the world from you, and we have a lot more liberty than you do now, but we've experienced what you're experiencing during our lockdowns. It's, you know, we're sending lots of love, and by the time this goes out, hopefully there'll be a bit more freedom of movement for you. And just everybody keep safe, and just remember to always be kind and look after yourselves. And I think, you know, picking up on the mental health aspect, I do think that there's been a huge shift, particularly in our industry, where that's actually something that we can talk about now without it being stigmatized. So it's down to people like you that are talking about it openly. So thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, it costs nothing to ring somebody and see how they're doing and ask how are you. So make sure you do that today. As you're listening to this, who have you not spoken to for ages, go and ring them today. Drop them a WhatsApp, doesn't take long.
Yes,
you've been amazing, as I knew you would be, and you know, we'll be sharing this, and please do connect to Bea. Make sure you're following Foccus Group and Enamus as well, and obviously subscribe to her podcast Startups and Unicorns over on the podcast channels. It's an absolute belter. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. And thank you for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been great. Thanks.